Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about emotional intelligence. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get down to the nitty-gritty about our emotional intelligence. Has been something that has been going on lately that people have been bringing up. So, it's like a red flag, you know what I mean? A little light bulb that keeps flashing to remind you to think about your emotional intelligence. So, luckily for me, I have the lovely Danielle here on my show to really break this down and really help us think about this. Thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on my show. How are you doing today?
I am doing awesome, Mitzi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and have this conversation with you.
Yes, yes. So let's just go dive deep into it. Why do you think people need to start thinking about their emotional intelligence?
Oh man, how much time do we have?
Bring it out.
So there's so many reasons, but the biggest thing I believe emotional intelligence is the most potent essence of our self-awareness. And I believe in order to do, be, and have what we want and are meant for in this world, we have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of who we are, aware of what we want, so that we can bridge that gap. And emotional intelligence allows us to do that.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. It really does. It really does. And I think what has been for you in your journey in connecting with your emotional intelligence that made you realize like I need to dive deeper into it for my own self?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to pinpoint where someone else might be off, right? Off base. And sometimes we don't always see that for ourselves. So it's sometimes, I think, harder to see our own shortcomings or the areas in which we can improve to become the highest version of ourselves. So for me, it was this energy of, I know I don't feel like I'm 100% living my potential. And I don't feel like I'm living as optimized as I could. So that's where emotional intelligence came in for me. And I kind of really dove deep and was able to see, okay, this is where I am. This is where I want to go. Who do I need to become in order to be that person that has the most optimized life that I desire? Right. And then going into the nitty gritty of that and realizing, the different areas of life that I wanted to improve or the ways that I wanted to tweak my life in order to have what it is that I wanted or to actualize my potential. And so that's where emotional intelligence really came into play for myself.
That's good. I like the way you were just honest and was like, I had to ask myself these hard questions. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah.
Because that's what it comes down to. Is like when you finally come to that front door and realize, what, I need to open this. I need to open this door and really figure out what's going on within me. And then you just have to just find it to get where you want to be because I feel like once you start in that journey within yourself, you realize that so many things are capable. You know what I mean? You are capable of so many things and so much greatness can come out of you. You know what I'm saying? As long as you are able to start within. And I think the thing with society and when we are raised, we are so focused on paying attention to everything outside of us that we forget to focus about what's going on inside of us. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I was always taught pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to people, pay
Mhm.
attention to the way they move, the way they act, the way they do things, because it'll always reveal their character. So then you realize that you start focusing on other people like you were saying like it's so easy to focus on other people's faults but you don't realize it within and people don't realize that we start copying certain things that we like or things that make sense. So we start claiming identities from other people that we grew up by or we're surrounded by, and we don't put it together where it's like, okay, where does this fit within myself? You know what I mean? And it doesn't feel right. And when I was reading on your website more about yourself, I loved your journey. By the way, I just
Thank
love how
you.
you broke everything down from where you started in the health field to finding God and finding your purpose to realizing like I need to break free from society because this is not the way to help people to doing this. You know what I mean? And it made me realize, like, yo, girl, we are in the same page because we have done so. I mean, I read that, I was like, okay, so I have a duplicate. Like, you know what I mean? There's somebody else out there that has that understanding that sometimes breaking away from this society's vision is a way that you how you say like connect with your spiritual intelligence that connects with your emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's such a good point because, like, if we think about it, until we do the emotionally intelligent work and we look at ourselves spiritually and from a level of self awareness, most of the time we are living our life from conditioning and from what people told us we should do or is the thing to be successful or happy or fulfilled or whatever. And I like to say, like, we're living on borrowed energy. We're living someone else's story and someone else's timeline and someone else's picture of what something should be. And oftentimes we're living in this energy of people pleasing. So this is yet another reason why emotional intelligence is so important, because it allows us to start questioning our paradigm, right? It allows us to start being like, wait, do I even believe that? Like, where did I come up with that? Who told me that? And was that even something that I wanted? And then the whole liberation process starts, because then you can realize what was never really yours to begin with. It was never really your belief. It was never really what you wanted. And then you open your whole mind to wait. Who really am I and what do I want? What am I here for? And then you get on that path of liberation, right? And that's freeing.
It is. It's absolutely freeing because it shifts your perspective. You know what I mean? It shifts your
Yeah.
desires. It shifts everything, like your directory of life, where you're going. And so it's like that those sayings of people saying, oh, I wasn't the same person I was 2 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean, that's a real thing because you change your frame of mind because now you are connecting with yourself in a different way where you can actually see it in other people in a different way and you have more compassion and empathy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's how I see it
Yeah.
because when I feel like now to the point where I'm able to connect with myself emotionally and I'm able to perceive things on an emotional level that where I look at other people and spiritually it's like I can see where they're hurting. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
can see, what I mean, where they need that guidance. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't blame them or judge them or I'm mad at them for their actions because I understand where they still need healing from. You know what I mean? And I think having that emotional intelligence with other people, I think that's really important.
And I think that's the key of emotional intelligence, right? It's being able to see people and situations as they are
Yeah.
rather than as they appear to be, right?
Yeah.
Which is what you said, being able to see below the surface, like what is really going on with someone, because it's probably not what they're presenting, right? Like, and it allows you to have this level of compassion that builds connection and relationships. And I think life is about connection. I think every single person on this earth searches deeply for connection. And what is the quickest way to have connection? Developing a heightened level of emotional intelligence, being able to see things and people as they are, understanding their story, and being able to be vulnerable as well, right? To receive that depth of connection.
Exactly. I love the way that you broke it down some more. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not thinking during this episode, what are you doing? Because you need to stop, halt, stop, because goodness, we have so many great points about emotional intelligence that, I'm kind of curious to know your opinion on this quote that I found. Um, it goes by, in a very real sense, we have two minds, one that thinks and one that feels. So when you hear that quote, what does that make you think about?
This is to me the whole essence of spirituality. It's bridging the mind and the heart into one, because I think we need both. This also reminds me of masculine and feminine energy. We need both. Night and day, we need both. The sun, the moon, the yin, the yang, right? This is all, to me, reminds me of polarity and duality that we live in the world. And why choose one or the other? Why don't we integrate both to have the greatest level of harmony and fulfillment and success that we could have in the world?
Exactly. Why not achieve both? Why just stick to one? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many I mean, if the world, I mean, the world is round. It's a circle. It's 360. So why stick to only one frame of mind, or one frame of a perspective when there's 360 amount of a perspective out there? You know what I'm saying? It's just about putting yourself there and receiving it for what it is and allowing it to marinate in you later on. I feel like the problem also is that people expect a response right away or they get anxious or unsettled when they feel like they are put in a situation where they have to have a quick response. So then
Mhm.
they don't allow the situation to marinate and sit in and soak it up to actually perceive it in a way that'll actually help them versus rejecting it because they can't perceive it at the moment. They feel like they don't have the time. So then it doesn't ever get into them, you know? Does that make sense?
Definitely. And I think that's yet again another benefit of emotional intelligence, being able to sit with every extreme of your emotion, even the things that you can't fully perceive in this moment, but you're like, huh, I know there is something powerful here. I'm going to choose to let it open me to a new perspective. And then
Mhm.
inevitably, that new perspective always leads to some sort of transformation that's for our highest good.
Exactly, for our highest good. That is a very good point. I mean, you already said a few good points already to connect with your emotional intelligence. Is there any other quick like tips or points that you may have for anybody out there that just wants like a boom, boom, boom of how they can try to connect with their emotional intelligence?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, I kind of just like coined this after years of working with people
Okay.
around this stuff, and I call it the HOT method. A HOT stands for honest, open, transparent, and it correlates to the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I believe one of the pivotal pieces of emotional intelligence is looking at things from every angle, right? Like mind, body, and spirit. Because if we're just looking at one thing, if we're just looking at our mindset, we're just going to be stuck in the mind. We're not moving energy. We're not moving the needle forward. We're just going to think about it and think about it and think about it into analysis paralysis, right? And then nothing happens other than getting frustrated.
Exactly.
Right. Or sometimes we're like really in the body and we're doing all the energy work and we're totally disconnected from reality. And then that's not moving the needle forward either. Right. As great as meditation is and sitting in meditation all day, not always the thing that moves the needle forward on its own. Right.
Exactly.
And then we have the intuitive piece of us, right? Where we are connecting with logic and perception, and we bring those all together. So I think all three are important. So what I like to do is I like to look at every part of my life. If I want to just kind of be like, okay, where do I need clarity? Because heightens our emotional intelligence. I will like get out a sheet of paper, put it in all fours, like draw a line down the middle and then a line like horizontally and vertically. And I will put like career in one box, relationships in another box, spirituality in another box, and then like wealth, finances, wellness, health, right? Kind of miscellaneous in another. And then I will go through each of those categories and I will ask myself mentally, what do I believe about this? What are the thoughts that I have about this? This is going to show me where I'm limited or where I'm not necessarily free, right? And where I can really further myself there. Then I go in and I'm like, ooh, okay, physically, where do I feel this belief in my body? Because that's showing me where I could potentially have an energetic block or a leak, right?
Yeah.
And then I ask myself spiritually, like I call upon my intuition and I'm like, oh, but what am I missing here? What is the thing I need to see that I'm not allowing myself to see? And when I do that through each category, there is no way you are not going to have the answers that you need because when you see it in front of you, it makes it real, right? It pops out at you, especially when you're writing it down and you can't ignore it anymore. And then it's like a foolproof method because you're able to literally see where the opportunity is to be able to heighten your emotional intelligence, to have what it is that you desire. And it makes it a really much more easeful process.
Yeah, I really like the way that you have that because once you have that visual form, and a lot of people are visual learners, and people don't realize that because I'm a visual learner,
Yeah.
and I need that visualization to realize, you know what, something's blocking me, and that's how you find it. You find it out just like that. 1, 2, 3, there it goes. Because instinctively, human nature is just to resolve a problem, and once you
Mm.
focus on your problem then you realize like, oh, I'm the problem. And a lot of the times people don't realize self-sabotage is a thing. What is your opinion on self-sabotage?
Absolutely. I believe self sabotage is what happens when we are not emotionally intelligent with ourselves, meaning we are not allowing ourselves to face and see and feel the things that we need to see, face, and feel. And when we don't, it creates fear. And then what happens when we're fearful? We do something to sabotage what it is that we want. So if we are just looking at all the things from the beginning and we can identify where the fear is and then bridge the gap, like what do we need to overcome that? Do we need support? Do we need to shift our belief? Do we need to shift something within our body? Do we need to release some sort of trauma or generational, whatever it is, right? Then self sabotage doesn't exist anymore because you're always
Exactly.
one step ahead of it. You're ahead of the fear.
Exactly. And it's like being one step ahead and just like that preparation is way dang better than procrastination, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like that's one thing I always say in my head when I want to like procrastinate and just chill and relax and not do what I know what I need to do. It's like, no, Mitzi, preparation is better than procrastination. You're gonna save yourself later. Don't do it, you know? And I think we have to have those moments where we have that reality check where we just speak to ourselves in that manner, the same way you would a friend if they were messing up. You know, tell yourself, no, don't go back to that cookie or don't go back to that person. Don't go back to that job. Don't go back to a lifestyle that is only going to destroy you from the inside out. And people don't realize like when you are feeling destroyed from the inside out, it affects everything around you. It affects your children, it affects your parents, it affects your family, it affects your job, it affects your social, it affects everything. And emotional intelligence, it needs to start becoming as important as just mental, just regular intelligence. You know what I mean? Go to school. Okay, great. Go to school, educate yourself, get that type of intelligence. You know, have the street smarts, have that type of street intelligence. Great. But that emotional connection within yourself allows you to have a better understanding to maneuver through the world, through people, through life in such a way that it's like, I'm like a little chameleon. That's
Well,
how I
and
see it.
yeah, and I think you made such a good point here that I want to really spotlight. You were like, talk to yourself like you would talk to your friend. And I think that's the key because how often are we so hard on ourselves? Are we so mean to ourselves? We would never say these things to someone else that we say to ourselves, right?
I
And so
know.
that's a really beautiful key here is have self-compassion in the process, right? Would you talk to a friend like that? Would you talk to your loved one like that? Probably not. So give yourself the same level of love and compassion that you give to the world. And you're probably going to like the emotional intelligence process a heck of a lot better because you're coming at it from this level of empathy with yourself, right? Rather than
Exactly.
being this critical person that you then fear. If you're fearing yourself, you're never going to do or have what you want.
Exactly. You're absolutely not. If fear is always going to be right there at your window or right there on your shoulder, guiding your steps, I mean, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to stay in a box, stay in a room, stay in an area, wherever that you're at, in a rut, in a routine, feeling unfulfilled and depressed. You know,
Yeah.
and that's no way to live your life. No way at all. Goodness gracious. I had something in my mind and it totally slipped away because you made up such a good point. However, I just have to ask, you know, through everything that you've been through in life and everything that you've learned and everything that you overcame, you know, what would you tell your younger self if you could tell your younger self anything?
To really trust the process, right? I have
Ooh.
found, especially in my life, and I think it's the theme for most people, but especially for me, there has been so many twists and turns, right? I thought I was 100% sure, right? Like I think any like driven woman, right, has this idea of, you know, what is true. You go all in and you're like, this is it. And then the door slams shut and you're completely redirected in another way. And I think the quicker I would tell my younger self, the quicker you can release resistance and just go with the flow of wherever divinity is moving you into, the happier and the more successful you are going to be. Go
Yeah.
with the flow. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable and allowing yourself to live in awe of surrender rather than in fear of surrender.
Wow, you really brought up a good point at the end. Wow. Can you say that last part again? I was so under. I feel like the people in the back need to hear it again.
I think a beautiful aspect is allowing yourself to be in awe of the process of surrender rather than be fearful of it. Right. When we
Exactly.
can look at surrender as, oh, anything can happen. Oh my God, how exciting. Rather than, oh my God, anything can happen. I'm doomed. How am I going to handle this? Right. These are two totally different energetics. And when
Exactly.
you can look at things in an energy of awe, you're preemptively manifesting good.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness. Exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness, people really need to sit with this because the concept of fear is so real in our lives. I mean, we deal with it all the time in the news. You know, your parents, I mean, come on, if you had good parents, bad parents, it doesn't matter. I mean, just the bad and ugly can, and the evil that you've been exposed to or seen, even in TV and fantasies, you know it's real. The
Yeah.
realness, it's there, and the fear is will always be there, but it's that awe. It's that possibility of like, oh, what if it went good? What if it worked out? What if it was actually on the positive end of the spectrum instead of the negative? And I think people don't really think about that in any aspect because they're so used to the negative, you know. And when you start like your community, your surroundings, and putting around a different words, you start to marinate and realize, you know what? It is possible to change the way I think if I start with one step at a time. You know what I mean? Catch yourself. Catch
Mhm.
yourself. You know what I mean? When you start to feel something negative, they're like, stop, nope, halt. You know what I mean? Stop and just be like, there's a possibility of something good being happening at this moment. And that's why I loved when you talked about enjoy the process because we're just
Yeah.
flow with the process and just going with the flow, get comfortable with uncomfortableness because I had to get to that point in my life where I had to tell myself, you have to get uncomfortable with the you have to embrace it because that's part of living, that's part of learning, that's part of evolving, you know what I mean? And I see it now with my children and any parents out there that are listening. I mean, come on, you are proof with you see it with your children when they get upset at something that's so small and they're struggling over some literally seen my son, my 2-year-old son have a complete meltdown because he couldn't grab his blueberry that was just a little bit too far. But he had a whole bowl of blueberries right next to him. But he
Yeah.
didn't want it. He wanted that one specific blueberry out of his way. And it was
Mhm.
just like, it made me realize that's us. We do that all, we focus
Yes.
on that one blueberry, not realizing all of the other good blueberries that are there, right there, waiting for us, ready for us, anticipating us. But we're so focused on that one blueberry. And you can use this analogy in bad relationships, in romantic relationships, in bad jobs. You can use that in so many ways that people don't like. I'm just now putting in all the pieces to the puzzle now, you know what I mean, as I'm saying it. But it's just like it's crazy that when you put that like together, it really makes you realize like we have a lot to live for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More than this moment.
Right. I love that visual. That's so powerful, right? It's like you have all these blueberries and then you want the one that you can't reach. And I always like to say, what is the path of least resistance? Right? When in anything that I'm doing, right? Whether it's business, relationships, a workout, like whatever, right? What is the path of least resistance? Because if you're looking at it from that objective, you see the things that are easy. You'll see the blueberry that's right in front of you. It's the path of least resistance. So maybe for people that might have like a mindset block around, what it is that they want or focusing on the wrong thing, just look at what is the path of least resistance. That's always going to put your focus back on what is right in front of you that's going to move the needle forward.
Exactly. See, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It has such been a great time speaking to you. I feel like we could speak more about life and so many other things. Goodness, I'm gonna have to see you make an excuse to bring you back onto my show again. But I guess it's that wrapping up the show. What can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us all to keep on thinking?
I really believe that your spirit always knows the truth. It's a matter of quieting the mind, tuning in to the presence, and being able to hear yourself. And that's the essence of emotional intelligence. So, whatever you can do this week, even if it's just 5 minutes, get still. Whatever allows you to tune in to yourself, whether that is in nature, whether that's working out, whether that's sitting in silence and meditation, listening to music, whatever that is for you, give yourself that at least 5 minutes of that this week and set the intention. What is it that I need to know that I'm not seeing for myself? Maybe you've never asked that before, but when you ask, it will be shown to you. So allow whatever comes to you first. That's your intuition speaking to you. Be the truth. Do not second guess it. Do not overthink it. Just then take that action. And before you know it, you will be exactly where you want to be because you're trusting yourself unshakably.
I love that last part, trusting yourself unshakably. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, just Danielle just oozes out of it. It just oozes wisdom. Oh my goodness. If ladies, if and gentlemen, if you guys want to know more about Danielle, I have her lovely photo on my website. You could just click right under there. You can find all the goodness that she has to offer. And she really has a lot of goodness that she's trying to share out to the world and just embrace this change and this evolvement that comes with life. And I guess real quick, just one last question before we really wrap up the show. Why help other people? You know what I mean? Why help when you could just keep this knowledge to yourself?
Well, I believe that I am here to positively impact the world. And that's not going to happen with me keeping all of this inside, never leaving my home and saying nothing, right? So start with where you are, right? If you're listening and you feel like you're here also to help the world and you have no idea where to begin, get out your phone, make a post, record yourself talking about something that's important to you or something you believe in. You never know what might seem so regular to you and so normal to you could be absolutely groundbreaking to someone else. And it might be exactly what they need to hear. So get out of your own way, right? We're not just here for ourselves. We are here to really impact the world. And you never know what kind of magic you've had to go through in order to do that. So that's why I share. You never know what can happen.
I love that. I love that. And that's my reason too, because you never know. That statement has always been something that I've always connected with my spirit. One day my spirit was like, well, just try it. You never know. And ever since, that's my go-to. Anytime I'm gonna try something, I'm like, well, you never know. It could be good, it could be bad, but you know what? Hey, it's an experience. And if it's bad, I learn from it and I evolve, and it's wisdom that I can take and I can share. And I think that's the beauty of this show and just me connecting with so many people is that we can share our wisdom and just share our testimonies in our lives to help other
Yeah.
people think about it and reflect on it. Because, like you said, it could be exactly that one person. I don't care if it's a million people out in the world or billion, quadrillion, whatever you want to call it. I'm just
Yeah.
looking for that one single human being. And if you're that one single human being is able to shift your perspective, well, then you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy with just one. I think that's what people need to start thinking about, just one, because one person truly impacts the world. The world. So, that being said, always be thinking, y'all. Bye.